So effectively, that means all home batteries are kind of aimed at those 5% of people, which again is kind of crazy that that's almost like the mainstream market. It's just that tiny little niche. I think, yeah, whether this is good or not, people care more about money than the climate. I guess that's probably why we're in this mess.
Rob Hallifax is a mechanical engineer who spent a decade running Kickstarter campaigns. 10 products, over £300,000 raised, and sold into 70 or 80 countries. Now he's co-founding Windfall Energy, a 2.5 kilowatt-hour home battery for renters and people in flats. The half of the UK's 28 million homes that no existing clean tech product was built for. Every other home battery on the market is built to go in the garage, behind a panel, somewhere you never have to look at it. Rob decided his product was going to live in someone's living room. So he hired a designer whose background is IKEA and Lakeland. Not batteries, not electronics, furniture.
Just about half the homes in the UK, so there's 28 million homes in the UK, and about half are either flats, renters, small homes, people for whom solar panels, they don't have a roof, they don't have space for a big Tesla Powerwall or something.
Then I asked the question that gets to the heart of what Windfall actually is. Do you see Windfall first as a climate company that has to pay for itself, or as a money-saving device that happens to be green?
Yeah, I'd say the latter. We've been speaking to a lot of people about this over the months, and I think, yeah, whether this is good or not, people care more about money than the climate. I guess that's probably why we're in this mess.
Rob said something near the end of this conversation that I keep thinking about.
When you wake up in the morning and you see a battery that has magically overnight filled up with cheap green electricity, it gives you a very warm feeling.
This episode is about what happens when you build hardware for people everyone else forgot, where the product decision isn't the cells or the firmware. It's making something people actually want in their home. This is Why Design. So Rob, welcome to the podcast. Great to have you on Why Design.
Thank you.
We're going to dive in. I know this has been, long in the making. I can't remember when we first met, but it was at some mixer in London many months ago. But yeah, here we are. So thank you for your time. So Rob, you've had this slightly unusual mix of mechanical engineering, connected products, a decade of crowdfunding under your belt so far, and now you're building Windfall, a plug-and-play battery, home battery for renters. Before we get into how that all fits together, take me back to a moment where everything shifted. Maybe take me back to that IoT London meetup where you met your co-founder.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us where you were in your life and work that night, and what was going through your head as you walked into that room.
Yeah, actually, I'll go back a tiny bit further. So IoT London, that meetup where I met my co-founder, that's been going over a decade now, I think. And probably about 10 years ago, I went to my first one. So kind of IoT has always been part of my sort of professional life for quite a while now. And I guess back then also it was kind of pretty new. It was almost like the kind of AI of its time where everyone was talking about IoT. Everyone was questioning whether it's overhyped or underhyped. And it was a sort of interesting area. And I think at the time that it interested me because it brought together the physical and the digital. Because as you said, I started off doing mechanical engineering at university but got into kind of digital product management quite a while after that. So I've always had that kind of software, hardware sort of balance. And so IoT is kind of the perfect crossover between hardware and software. And so I've been going to those meetups for many years. And last year, there was a guy talking, as happens at those events. He was doing a pitch about his previous company, it's called EV Energy, and they were, or they still are, a company that manages car charging overnight based on the optimum pricing of your tariff and electricity, that sort of thing. And I can't really remember how, what these events are like, kind of organic. You talk afterwards, and I think we might have ended up in the pub with a few of us, and we sort of got chatting about ideas. And he had just left that job, so he was actually talking on behalf of the company, even though he just left. And I was also kind of looking for a new challenge to get stuck into, and so we sort of, I guess, got on with each other and had a good kind of rapport in terms of how we chatted about things, and we both both kind of new IoT technology, but I guess crucially weren't too similar in that there's kind of no point if both of you have exactly the same skills, and it can be quite fun. You get on, but if you're too perfectly aligned in terms of what you can do and your experience, there's kind of no point in having both of you there. So we had the perfect balance, I think, of having enough in common. Because I think especially when you're starting out, having the kind of very sort of quick communication where a kind of shorthand for getting stuff done and being able to understand each other. So you need, I think, some level of overlap in terms of, I always find engineering is a good example, because kind of some of the generic terms of engineering that are very kind of precise and useful language that can kind of communicate things very efficiently. I think when you have that with someone, you can get through quite a lot. But then equally, we realized we had different skills and balanced each other out in some ways. So it was kind of totally random. I mean, like all these sort of events, I might just not have gone. I could have just had somebody else on, or would maybe feeling a bit under the weather or something. And it's kind of weird, these moments where things happen. But I suppose
serendipitous.
Yeah, but the way I look at that is you getting out there doing things. I mean, who knows? Maybe I'd have met a better co-founder if I'd gone somewhere else.
Yeah.
But I would obviously never say that to Ashley. But that's the point. Like, I think the point is to get out there, meet people, talk to people, and stuff will happen. You don't know what it's going to be, and things sometimes happen, sometimes they don't. But getting out there, talking to people makes things happen.
It certainly does. I posted today because we've got tomorrow's episode, which is going to feel dated by the time this goes out. But tomorrow's episode is Will Butler Adams, CEO of Brompton Bikes, and he famously got the job at Brompton by chatting to the chairman on the bus. He didn't know who the guy was from Adam, and he could have chosen to have his headphones in that day, but instead he chose to spark a conversation. And then the next day he's driving hundreds of miles essentially for an interview. And 23 years later, he's running one of the most iconic hardware brands in the country. So it's you never know. If you put yourself in those positions, you never know what good will come of it. So
I think that's the key. It won't come to you. You have to get out there and find it.
Massively, yeah. You said when we prepared for this, you said it felt like a little bit like dating over coffee. Was there a moment where you realised that this isn't just good chat? This could might be the person that I could build a company with.
I can't remember if there was a particular eureka moment. I guess it was we kind of went for coffee, then another one. I think we started. I guess both of us kind of have the inclination to make stuff. And I think that's where we started just packing things together and sketching, and even actually pretty early on started coding up a kind of basic app for a prototype we were working on. So I think it was because you can get on with someone in sort of lots of different levels. And one is, can you work together, and can you actually sort of bounce ideas off each other and move things forward? I think we quickly realised we could do things. So and we were hanging out in the British Library back in those days because we didn't have an office or anything. So just things like he would hack together a little app. I would go away, kind of make a logo, spun up a Squarespace website, and stuff sort of happened organically. And I guess any point. So at that time we didn't have a limited company or anything. It was just a couple of guys having a project. And maybe at any point it might just not have turned into something. Maybe we wouldn't have come across an idea we thought had legs. So it's all just small incremental steps of moving forward, and maybe both of us having, it's kind of a cliche, but kind of agile development and just doing small things and iterating, moving forward and seeing what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you remember, because I'm gathering from kind of the first kind of few prototypes that the battery wasn't on the cards then, was it? The business wasn't set up for the battery.
That's right, yeah.
So do you remember the first time when kind of the idea of a renter-friendly plug-in home battery kind of showed up in your conversations?
So I think actually it was almost the renter-friendly thing came first. So we both live in flats in London, and we were thinking there's just nothing in terms of clean tech and energy saving. There's kind of nothing for you if you live in a flat. All clean tech stuff's about solar panels, heat pumps, all these things that if you live in a flat, and especially if you're renting, you just can't do. So we thought about, in fact, I remember at the time it had been, there's always, every once a year in the UK, everyone complains about how hot the weather is and how like UK buildings aren't designed for it. So we thought maybe there's something we could do around some IoT thing with sensors and blinds that automatically monitored temperature in different parts. And because there's always the question of, should I open the window or not? Like, when's it too hot to open the window? When are you supposed to? And that all those, and we thought that could be an IoT solution somehow. So that kind of started there. And then we thought about kind of an IoT plug became that was our first product we actually kind of made. So we thought an IoT plug that similar to the kind of logic that Ashley's previous company did, where it looks at the electricity price over a day and knows when the cheapest time is. And in the UK, cheapest is pretty much always the greenest as well. So it's kind of a double win. So we thought, what about a smart plug that monitored electricity price and only turned on when it was cheap? So you could set a threshold or whatever, or a certain number of hours. So we actually, because we thought that would be pretty easy to prototype, we actually just luckily enough came across some, I can't remember how we met this guy, but I think an acquaintance of Ashley happened to have a box of 200 smart plugs that he'd not needed. He had some other project and didn't need them. So we got 200 free smart plugs, which we were able to
Handy.
basically flash the firmware and hack them to do what we wanted. So we then made these products. And again, it was we had no money at the time. So we didn't have any investment or anything. So we just, what was a low cost, low effort way to move something forward and test and try. So we had, in the end, that smart plug, we gave about 100 out to people who we met at meetups and just friends and family, people just to say, hey, do you want to have a go at this? Try it, test it. And I think, and it was cool. I actually still have one behind me, which I use, but we realized that it just wasn't impactful enough. People were, for example, charging their smartphone overnight in the cheapest 2 hours, but you save like fractions of pennies doing that.
Yeah.
And so we thought, what's actually more impactful? And then for a while, we looked at actually charging batteries with the smart plug. And then we kind of got onto, okay, what if the battery just is the smart thing itself? So then we hit on the idea of a smart battery that, again, monitors electricity for price and only fills up cheap electricity and then puts the electricity back into your house at the expensive times.
Brett, we're skipping ahead, but I've got questions that I don't want to not ask later. So, so how does it work then? You know, in practice, is it plugged into the mains? It's drawing electricity to charge the battery. Is it then feeding it? It's not feeding it back into the mains, is it? Or
so it is.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, generally the overall premise is pretty obvious, and I guess a lot of people say, why doesn't it exist? Why haven't people done it before? And I mean, a couple of reasons. One is the electricity price. Certainly, the UK has just gone up and up and up, and at the same time, the price of battery cells has gone down. So the ROI is worth doing, so that you can save enough money with a product at the right price that is worth doing. Whereas probably even 5-10 years ago, just wouldn't have paid for itself. So it would have been a nice kind of novelty product, but wouldn't have had much value. And so the plug and play is an interesting. So the idea is it plug and play, single plug that plugs into a regular socket in the wall. In the UK at the moment, that's not allowed. So technically, there's no reason why you can't push electricity back through a regular plug, through a socket, and it will effectively just power the circuits in your home. So that works. It's kind of, so a lot of people question me when they're like, how does that work? And it's sort of, in a way, simpler if you just have a load and a power source, and if something in your house is turned on, it will come from the battery if the battery's putting energy out.
How does that work then? How does it kind of know to pull from the battery rather than just from the mains?
So it's more about when the battery needs to know when to push. So if the battery is effectively turned on, exporting, so discharging, then whatever happens to be on will just take that electricity.
Right.
And so in Germany and quite a few countries in Europe and a few other places in the world, that has become a thing only in the last sort of 5 years, where you can plug a regular battery, through into a regular socket to put power back sort of the wrong way, as people see it. And there's talk of that changing in the UK, and that's something we're kind of keeping an eye on, and hopefully that will change, and we're doing our best to we're speaking to energy providers and other people who may have some more more influence in that than we would as a small startup. But in the short term, we have a kind of interim solution, which is a hardwired solution. So an electrician will come in, and it's sort of like a half an hour quick job. The electrician will, because one of the rules is a BS 7671, I think, is the wiring regulation about you're not supposed to have a generating device that is connected to the home via a plug and socket. So you need a hardwired connection.
Okay.
So that's the kind of workaround in the short term. So a bit like the way a cooker is hardwired, sort of behind the counter.
But that would be still relatively easy to retrofit and remove for the next renter. Or are you targeting this at landlords to put into the homes?
I could be either. I mean, ideally, in the future when it is plug and play, then a renter. So a renter is unlikely to live in a house for more than like 2-3 years. I think is fairly in London, particularly fairly common. So you kind of want them to take it with them. So the battery will last 10 years. So it'll keep giving value over that time. So you want people to be able to make the most of it.
Okay. Yeah, interesting. So, let's loop back then. So, obviously the name of the podcast is Why Design. So we've got to at least include that question. But in your case, why engineering? You know, you studied mechanical engineering. What kind of started you off on that path of kind of pulled you into product development?
I suppose, I mean, I've always liked making things. As a kid, it's a bit of a cliche again, but Lego, I like Lego drawing, just kind of making anything was always what I was into. And my dad was a civil engineer, and so engineering was kind of sort of on my radar. And I was quite good at maths and science, and it was just sort of, I mean, you make those choices when you're kind of a teenager, don't really have any idea what the world's going to give you later on in life. And I think, I guess engineering is a good degree to have. It's you learn a lot of stuff, and you learn a lot about just how to problem solve, and it's not necessarily like ask me about the second moment of area and I wouldn't have a clue, but it's like you learning the broader kind of principles around engineering.
Yeah.
And to be honest, actually at the time, I almost after my first year wanted to change degree subjects. I thought engineering was just a bit too kind of prescriptive, and it was all I wanted to do. I had friends doing other subjects where they could take electives in philosophy and other stuff. And certainly in my department, you had everything you did was in the mechanical engineering department. You had a few choices within that, but otherwise it was all very much. And so I almost changed to geography. So my life would be quite different if I had. But actually, I'm of the age where I wasn't paying tuition fees, but only by 1 year. So if I'd have dropped out and restarted, I would have changed my whole life. Had to pay for tuition fees and grants and stuff. It was all totally different. So that was part of the reason why I didn't. And in hindsight, I'm very glad I didn't, because I love engineering and I'm a big advocate of it.
Let me interrupt for 30 seconds with something most hardware founders learn the hard way. The skills that get you from prototype to product are not the same skills that get you from product to scale. That transition is where leadership matters. At Kodu, we help physical product companies hire senior leaders who can formalize roadmaps, build world-class teams, and align product with commercial strategy. Director, VP, C-suite. If you are entering a new category, raising capital, or professionalizing your product function, this is not a hire to rush. So find me, Chris White, on LinkedIn, and let's talk before you make the call. Yeah. I mean, it looks like, just looking at your LinkedIn profile and the conversations we've had, you've certainly found a way to scratch, the creative itch, from photography through to teaching. So you've been quite entrepreneurial as well, founding many ventures. You've even got a roast my Kickstarter thing that you do as well. So, there's lots of joy in there outside of the, the nuts and bolts of engineering. How much of what drives you is the joy of making something new, and how much kind of satisfaction, how much is the satisfaction of watching it in the wild doing its job in someone's home?
Yeah, I think that's what it's all about, really. I mean, I mean, you could sit at home making stuff for yourself, which I do. I have sort of hobbies where I just make stuff for my own enjoyment. But then when you make something that scales and you see it, people using it, and with my Kickstarter projects, I've had I think I added up once. There's probably about 70 or 80 countries in around the world where my products have gone to, and it's tens of thousands of people. And the idea that something I made is now in someone's home in wherever, South America, Singapore, all over the place. And I love that feeling of making something that people enjoy or use or just get something out of. And I think it's turning it into a business is kind of almost, sometimes say I'm a bit of a reluctant entrepreneur, like the stuff like accounting and all that stuff. I'm not going to say that's the most fun, but there's a point where if you want to scale and get the product into more people's hands, you have to then become an entrepreneur and think more about the business, the commercials and legals and stuff like that, which is, I guess that's maybe where, particularly on the Kickstarter side, a lot of people have a kind of hobby project, which then is an art project, effectively becomes a thing, and they make 100 and that's it. But I think I enjoy that core creativity, but then taking it to the next level and making it commercial and selling as many as possible.
Yeah. No, fantastic. And where do Guinness World Records come in? And what do they say about the way you approach challenges and side projects?
So those last 2 years ago, almost exactly 2 years ago now, New Year's Eve, I had a New Year's resolution to break a world record. I think I just thought I'd been running my playing card company for a few years, and I just kind of thought I was getting into a bit of a rut, not doing enough kind of new creative stuff. So I thought that would be something that just kind of pushed me forward to do something unusual. And at the time, I had no idea what it was going to be. And I think it probably talks to I definitely have a philosophy that making stuff's actually quite easy. You can make anything because it's not really about you. I think especially with my Kickstarter stuff, my first Kickstarter was a razor, and people often ask me, how do you know how to make a razor? And the kind of point was, like, I didn't before I did. Making stuff is about finding the right people to help you. Like, you can do nothing on your own. In sort of, especially creative endeavors, you can sing, dance, maybe like pile up some rocks, but everything else needs at least tools, like other people, like suppliers, manufacturers, partners. Like, nothing is achievable on your own when it comes to making stuff. So I think once you realize that, some people think try and do too much on their own. So once you realize you can't do it all on your own, you have to find help. Then it kind of, once you get to that, you get past that hurdle, then anything's possible. You can make anything. So with the Guinness World Records, I thought I would make something that was the superlative, whatever it was in the world. And playing cards was an obvious one because I had a playing card company, and have still, as a side hustle, kind of run a playing card company with playing card designs. And so I thought I did a few. Can't remember how I got to. I guess biggest, smallest were sort of the obvious things to look at. And smallest, I looked up the record, and it was the smallest playing cards previously were, I think it was 7 millimeters high, and I thought that sounded beatable. So I started digging around and figured I could beat that.
Yeah.
And so that was the first one that I went for.
And you did it?
Yep. So I got down to 5. So mine are 5 millimeters high by 3.6 wide.
Brilliant. Really, really difficult to fan out, I imagine, and actually play around a poker.
Pretty much impossible. They tend to just flip upside down and jump around, and you can barely.
Yeah.
Tweezers is the answer.
Brilliant. What's the this is a slight departure from my questions here, but what's your best selling design of playing cards?
It's actually right here. It's this one. So
it's a square.
Yeah, so it's called the One Deck, and these are, so they're regular cards. So this is an ace with the aces on, but then they also have chess pieces in the middle.
Oh, cool.
And dominoes as well. So basically you could play lots of games with them. So the idea is they were a multi-game deck, so you could take traveling. These are also smaller than, even narrower, as well as being square, they're narrower. Yeah. So actually my first deck was that size, and these were mini ones that size.
Oh, cool.
So they were sort of the ultimate travel deck that was, and those, that did £100,000 this on Kickstarter, this second deck.
Wow.
So that's proved pretty popular, and they still selling them today.
Fantastic. Yeah. So just proof that your designs don't need to be kind of overly complicated. They need to solve a a simple kind of desire and need, a problem
Yeah,
there. And I'm guessing relatively, affordable to produce as well.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
that's one beauty of playing cards is that I
yeah,
mean, effectively, your PDFs is your output. You find a playing card manufacturer,
yeah.
send them PDFs, and that's it. So
Wow.
it's a question of finding the right supplier. And you're right, they're a volume, they're pretty cheap, so margins are good. So it's just I guess deliberately constrained that design and manufacturing problem
Uh,
because I didn't want to try and create the next kind of really expensive sort of electromechanical device that
uh,
wasn't kind of where I was at in my life. So again, it's a balance of finding the right thing for you at the time.
uh. No, fantastic. Thank you. So you've run, 10, I think 10 Kickstarter campaigns. You've
Yeah.
raised over £300,000 of your own through that. You know, what was going through your mind the first time you hit launch, and you asked the internet to back your idea with real money?
Uh, Pretty nerve wracking. So weirdly, my first one was probably the hardest. So it was my highest target. So my first one was a razor,
Yeah.
basically a men's razor. So that it was made from die cast metal, so needed tooling, which
Uh-huh.
was quite expensive. So I think, if I remember rightly, maybe £19,000 was my target,
Okay.
which is now pretty much 10 times what my playing card target would be. So it's always harder on Kickstarter to hit a bigger target, and
Yeah.
especially for your first ever project. So it was tough, and I think very nearly didn't make it. It was kind of tracking along slowly, and
Uh,
um, like everyone will always say on Kickstarter, you need to have a strong first day. Ideally, like hit your
uh-huh.
target in hours, if not a day, the first day. And I definitely didn't do that, and kind of battled through slowly raising the money, and
Uh,
only perhaps a few days before the end actually hit 100%. So it was pretty nerve wracking and a
yeah.
very emotional kind of roller coaster. It was a couple of articles online, kind of men's sort of like tech, not tech, but more gadgety,
Yeah.
like stuff blogs published about it. And there's actually, you can see on my trajectory of the project, one of them, I woke up one morning and it really took off,
Okay.
and that's what ticked me over 100%. So
Oh,
I was
brilliant.
definitely touch or go. And if I had not succeeded then, I probably wouldn't have done another one. So I think my life, again, talking about pivotal moments, that
Yeah.
would have been very different.
Did that, the stress of getting to kind of 100% and then some,
Mm.
did did that not make you kind of think twice about doing another one, or was the rest of the
I-
journey quite good?
It probably did make me think. I guess it perhaps made me tone down my ambition for the actual product because,
Uh-huh.
like I say, the first one had quite a lot of upfront costs that were kind of necessary, the tooling and fixed costs, which is partly why I went to playing cards. I did a couple in
Uh-huh.
between where I just had lower fixed costs, so I needed a smaller target, and they were
Uh-huh.
just easier to launch. And kind of sort of almost annoyingly, like the margins are much better on the playing cards, and there's not necessarily a correlation between the complexity and how
Uh-huh.
successful it is going to be as a business or a product. So it's like picking your battles, I suppose.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And you going further back in your career, you're a global player like Thermo Fisher,
Mm.
and then you moved into startups and digital products. What prompted that move away from the corporate into the unknown, the risky kind of world of startups?
I suppose I was living in Cambridge at the time,
Yeah.
working for Thermo Fisher, and I actually did an Open University course on
Uh-huh.
design and innovation, which was 2 years part time. I think it was a diploma or something. It's like the equivalent of kind of first year graduate, and I think that was what really made me start to get more into the design side of products. And I was at the time I probably didn't know what a product manager was, and
Uh,
I was starting to work. So actually, at that company, I actually started working on the factory floor assembling stuff, and then kind of worked my way up I ended up in the technical support team where
uh,
I was writing technical documentation, manuals for service engineers. I was going around the world training service engineers to fix the stuff that we made. And I think I started thinking about all the things you deal with as a service engineer are all kind of caused by design choices that someone made maybe a couple of years ago. So then I kind of moved upstream in the design process. I thought I thought I could design things better to make them more serviceable in that particular case. And so I sort of got more into design and I moved to London because my partner at the time got a job here, and then I found a job at Moo on the digital product management side. And that was my first job where I was called a product manager. And so that was kind of my introduction to product management and that side of things.
And I know looking here, it was more to do with digital products.
Yes.
There, but I'm guessing working at Moo, you got a bit of exposure to card and print there as well.
Exactly. And that kind of, I mean, it's probably 10 years after I left Moo that I got onto the playing cards. So there's sort of an indirect link. And I guess I've always liked making things that includes drawing and 2D things and that kind of stuff. So that kind of fitted in nicely.
Yeah, same. I've literally just yesterday received my new batch of business cards for CES, courtesy of Moo. So, if anyone's listening and want to sponsor the show, more than happy. But if not, that's the only plug moo.com yet. Looking back, Rob, is there a decision that you're glad you did not make? An opportunity that you turned down that now looks like a crucial fork in the road?
Oh, I don't think so. I think I'm kind of going back to the earlier point. I'm quite a positive person. I feel the key is to make the most of the decisions you do make, and not. I tend not to regret things like that too much, or I try not to. So nothing I can really think of, to be honest.
No, good. Yeah, it's sometimes we see those pivotal paths, don't we? It's like, if I'd have, like you said, back, if you'd have chosen geography, to move, maybe, in hindsight, that was a good decision not to make. But who knows?
Who knows?
There's nowhere you could have gone. So, but let's talk about Windfall again. So, obviously, we've talked about the inception, how you met your co-founder, and we've improved what it does. But just for anyone that's maybe tuning in now or hasn't come across Windfall yet, what are you building? Who is it for, and why does it matter?
So Windfall Energy is the company. We're building a home energy product, a battery that's aimed for people who live in flats and smaller homes and people renting, which is about half the homes in the UK. So there's 28 million homes in the UK, and about half are either flats, renters, small homes, people for whom solar panels, they don't have a roof, they don't have space for a big Tesla Powerwall or something. Just the kind of, probably too early to say traditional home energy products, but the incumbent stuff just doesn't work. And those people are kind of being left behind. If you hear about kind of octopus homes where the people have no bills, but in order to get there, you need to have a big enough house to have solar and kind of some sort of energy infrastructure built in. You need to be able to afford it. I mean, that's typically solar and batteries in a bigger house could cost 10 grand plus. And so if you're in a flat living in the city, that's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
And the result of that is just bills going up, and a lot of people are kind of stuck. So we thought, what can we make a product for those people? So effectively for half the country that's been left behind. And typically home batteries, so people think of a Tesla Powerwall, they're primarily designed to take excess solar power when you're not using it. So that means you need solar panels. And again, only about 5% of homes in the UK have solar panels. So effectively that means all home batteries are kind of aimed at those 5% of people, which again is kind of crazy that that's almost like the mainstream market. It's just that tiny little niche. So we thought, how can we open this up a bit more and make a battery for everyone?
Let's pause for a moment. If you need a contract mechanical engineer next week, the easy option is to pull a list of keyword matches and hope one sticks. It's not what we do. At Kodu, we work exclusively in physical product development. We know what good looks like at senior level because we've spent over a decade in this market. Every contractor we introduce is properly vetted, referenced and assessed for real delivery experience, not just software skills on a CV. We can move in under 24 hours, but we do not compromise on quality to do it. So if you need proven contractor support without the gamble, connect with me, Chris White, on LinkedIn, and let's move properly.
So a big home battery typically could be something like 10 kilowatt hours. They weigh over 100 kilograms, so they're not the kind of thing you're going to install in a flat. Whereas our battery is 2.5 kilowatt hours, so quarter of that size, and much more appropriate for a smaller home. So again, these are, I guess, stuff we've speaking to people, like no one really understands what kilowatt hours means. Like if you ask the average person how many kilowatt hours they have, they've got no idea. And to be honest, I probably didn't really until a couple of years ago. So it's about making a smaller battery that actually is appropriate for the size of the building. So if you had, let's say somehow I installed a Tesla Powerwall in my flat, it just wouldn't get used. It's just too big a capacity, and it would be pointless, expensive and hard to install, all that stuff. So a smaller battery is something the idea is order online, it just turns up. We want to get it light enough that it can actually just turn up with a regular courier. So 25 kilograms or something, take it out of the box, plug it in, and off you go. And you can start saving money and using greener electricity. Whereas now there's just kind of no way to do that as someone in a flat.
Wow. Yeah. And what have been some of the core challenges that you've faced so far? I'm guessing obviously there's the technology, the technical side of things, but then maybe the perception of batteries in kind of in built up homes, fire risk, for instance. Talk us through that.
Yeah, I think a bit like I said before, like kind of the making of the thing is kind of the easy bit. Like a lot of people often can overestimate how hard that bit is. For me, the hard bit is always the kind of finding customers, making a product that people actually want. That's the hard bit. And the kind of product market fit, as everyone says, if you need to have something that's valuable and people want. And then you have to find them, which is also another challenge when it comes to marketing and kind of route to market. So the hard stuff is often it's not, in a way, that's not as sort of sexy as the developing the product and the hardware and finding the right battery cells. It's the kind of stuff that really will make or break. If you can't find customers who want to give you money, that's kind of game over.
Yeah.
So the harder stuff is on the route to market, finding customers. And you're right, fire hazard or perception of fire risk is definitely a big one. The LFP cells we're using are these days very safe. We will have definitely some work to do, kind of more of a marketing challenge of persuading people that they are safe. So we'll have, I guess, all the certifications and stuff around showing people that they're safe. We'll have extra kind of fire protection mechanisms built in. That kind of will go sort of above and beyond to show people that they really are safe. So that's a sort of kind of technical / sort of organizational marketing challenge.
And when you think of the physical form of the product, the ID, how do you see that kind of coming across so that it feels homely and it feels safe, rather than a scary box of fire electricity in the corner of the living room?
Yeah, that's a critical point you've hit on there. So again, home batteries typically now are just a big white box, kind of like a boiler. They're designed to be in the garage or just basically tucked away. But whereas this is quite likely be in someone's living room, or it's a product that it's going to be in your home and you're going to be living with it. So the industrial design and the look and feel is definitely something we're focusing a lot of attention on. So it needs to look like almost more like a little piece of furniture. A lot of people talk about it being a side table or something in your living room. So it's something that is it's kind of a new type of product, really. It's a kind of new paradigm of what a home energy product could be. But the industrial design look and feel is critical, and that we're working with a a designer called Ben King,
Oh yeah,
who's
I know
worked
Ben.
previously
Yeah.
for IKEA and Lakeland, and kind of more consumer sort of interior type products, rather than, we don't want this to be kind of techie. And there are home batteries, or kind of portable camping batteries is quite a big kind of category of products, and they're always just very kind of
They're
teenage
rugged,
boy
aren't they?
bedroom kind of
Yeah.
look. Yeah, and that's not, we're very much not going for that. This needs to be a kind of home product that you want in your life.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. So so the green plus money is a powerful mix, from a
Yeah,
marketing perspective, but also, from an eco perspective. Do you see Windfall first as a climate company that has to pay for itself, or as a money saving device that happens to be green? How do you
I'd
hold?
say
Yeah. Sorry.
I'd say the latter. We've been speaking to a lot of people about this over the months, and I think, yeah, whether this is good or not, people care more about money than the climate. I guess that's probably why we're in this mess. But um, in a way, we're lucky that there's kind of zero compromise, because, like I say, literally the cheapest electricity, you see the graph of price in 24 hours, and the CO2 emissions, and they're pretty much the same. So it would be tricky if we had to compromise there and kind of balance those two things, but we're sort of lucky that we don't. So in terms of marketing stuff, we lead on saving money, and the green thing is it's kind of a bit more than just a happy bonus, but they are
Yeah.
definitely it's kind of tightly integrated. But saving money is the core value that people are buying it for.
Yeah. Brilliant. And yeah, it's a win-win, isn't it? So, well, let's talk about something that's breaking. Let's talk about that as you grow, because you keep saying that kind of making stuff's easy, but there's the saying hardware is hard. So
Yeah,
there's I'm sure there are challenges, but you've just come through Bethnal Green Ventures, and you've raised a few thousand, 60,000 or so
that's right.
from
Yeah.
that. So, and now you're looking for something closer to $1 million for a hardware business. What's the hardest conversation you're having with investors at the moment?
There's probably there's some kind of simple ones, which are some investors just not interested in hardware, which is kind of, it's annoying and frustrating, but there's not much. We were not going to convince them. They want B2B SaaS, and that's what they
Yeah.
do, which is kind of fair enough. I think, especially when it comes to climate tech, like SaaS is not going to solve the climate crisis, but that's another story. So there's a lot of investors where we're just not don't fit their thesis, and similarly, some investors want much later stage companies who have revenue and kind of, and again, we're not going to convince them. So it's finding the right early stage investors and the ones who are interested in hardware. So again, there are kind of climate tech sort of green investors who are particularly interested in this area.
Yeah.
And so that's obviously a good thing for us to target. I suppose two things we have. It's that route to market, the sort of commercial, like, how is this actually a viable commercial product? Are people going to want it, pay for it, buy it? That's the question. And the other one's kind of around the sort of technology we're using. So again, for some investors, we're not sort of deep tech enough. We're not reinventing battery chemistry. We're using relatively well-known components to put together a new product, but we're not completely reinventing the wheel, which kind of, from a sort of commercial point of view, makes a lot of sense. It'll make it a lot easier to kind of get launched.
Get to market quicker. Yeah.
Yeah. But then investors want some kind of defensibility. So for us, building out, we'll have trademarks, design registrations. We have a strategy to look towards patents for some components and parts of the system. We'll also, for us, the kind of brand and the design is a big part of what makes us us. So we'll be looking to kind of flesh out that sort of IP side of the business over the next few months. Particularly, that's partly what raising the money this round is for.
Okay.
And I suppose on the commercial point, we're talking to a couple of the biggest energy companies in the UK about selling the battery through them.
Yeah.
So the idea there is a customer can get the battery through the energy company's website, they have the tariff designed specifically
Hmm.
to battery, so it just kind of works. Because
Yeah.
again, energy tariffs very complicated. Most people don't understand the ones they're on, and trying to find a new one is just really hard. So if you
Uh-huh.
can say, here's this battery, you get the windfall tariff, and it'll just maximize savings, and it just works. So
Yeah.
that's kind of, and then so in that sense, we're kind of B to B to C. So that's our strategy, is to go through them, which opens up a bigger market, helps us to integrate more tightly with the energy system, so we can save money more. Simplicity for the end user is
Uh-huh.
kind of key. So that's why the plug and play is important. The getting the right tariff and all that stuff. The other thing is the energy companies also have value in the battery, and they can use it as a distributed
Uh,
asset. So they can, by giving them some control over when it charges and discharges, they can make extra money on their wholesale pricing. So in a way, it's kind of a win-win-win. The end user saves money, energy company saves money. They also get a chance to have this sort of shiny new product, win new customers,
uh-huh.
because the sort of marketing competition amongst them is quite fierce. So we're sort of, so by selling to the energy companies, we kind of adds more value to the product.
Mm. It's yeah, sounds like a no-brainer, but I could see from the the investor's point of view, when it comes to IP, that does present a risk. But if you've got the commercial agreements there,
Mm,
that's the bit that the Chinese rip-off companies, that
exactly. Yeah.
you kind of protected there with the commercial contracts. So
Yeah.
and I'm guessing, if you buying it as part of an energy deal, when you move home, I'm guessing, they're going to be subsidizing the cost, if not just giving it away as part of the deal anyway. So
Exactly. Yeah. So
yeah,
those kind of discussions we're having with
yeah,
the energy companies, how best to kind of take that value,
uh,
who has it, who shares it, how's it paid over time,
yeah,
and also it's great for the energy company because you have a very sticky customer, because they have
uh,
your sort of magic money saving device in their home, and
yeah,
you're kind of helping them save money. It's a little bit similar to a broadband router that
yeah,
Virgin give you a free box and then they charge you for the internet. So there could be something comparable.
yeah. That's great. So when you've also mentioned that it's not for every investor, especially the SaaS kind of first and the
Yeah.
AI investors who like neat margins. But you you still got to do a bit of a sell on on to hardware investors, as few
Yeah.
as they are. But how do you walk those investors, or the hybrid investors, I guess, through the messy reality of batteries, compliance, and supply chains without kind of them glazing over and losing them?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I said making stuff's easy, but I mean, it's not that easy. It's especially so we'll be manufacturing in China. I guess the key thing for us is we've both, me and Ashley, both worked on hardware
Uh-huh,
products before. So Ashley, as well as having worked on a software company that's done energy management for EVs, has also worked for a battery company.
uh-huh,
And one of the founders of that company is now an advisor for Windfall Energy.
uh-huh.
So he was able to introduce us to factories in China to kind
Yeah.
of get us through the door, add a bit of credibility, and give us a sort of leg up.
Uh-huh,
And again, it's showing that we have the right experience, know the right people to
uh-huh.
get something made over there, because it can be a bit of a minefield. There's so much, because in a way in China you can have anything made somehow, but it's just finding the right places, the right people, and there'll be
Yeah.
complexities around kind of lead times, shipping.
Uh-huh.
Shipping batteries is not trivial, so there's quite a lot of complexity around that.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned there's just the two of you on it as co-founders,
Yeah.
but you've got a decent network. You've already mentioned Ben King, and you've obviously got links with manufacturers.
Mhm.
Could you give me an example of a recent time where or this is too much for two people moment,
Mm.
and how you've worked through it
Um,
without burning out or dropping the ball?
I guess probably I mean, it's a bit of a cliche, but everyone says investment, raising money sinks all your time. And that has been, so we kind of, had, over the last few months, Ashley's been focusing on that, which has given
Uh-huh,
me time. I've helped here and there, but mostly that's been his thing.
uh-huh,
And I think it could have been very easy for us both to have been sucked in, and you could pretty much spend 100% of your time doing that. And it's sort of a necessary evil in that it has to happen, but at the same time, you're not moving the product forward. You're not really doing anything with the business.
Yeah.
So that's a tricky balance. And perhaps almost similar to the commercial discussions with energy companies, keeping that moving forward again has been sometimes quite time consuming. And finding time to actually, like I say, develop the product, keep things moving forward. So I think from every point of view, that momentum forward is the key thing. Like investors want to see it, we want to see it, not least for our own sanity, but it's trying to balance moving stuff forward, but spending enough time on talking to investors, that side of stuff. Because I guess the flip side of that is maybe some people would want to go away, hide in a room, make some stuff, you could spend a year just developing a product, think it's perfect. And then only when you leave the room, you realize that no one wants it, or it's the wrong product, or the commercial structure is not right. So it's about getting outside into the world, speaking to people. So it's whether that's investors, potential customers, potential partners, and kind of, I guess, challenging your assumptions along the way all the time. Are we building the right thing here?
So it's a scary question, but it's one that's got to be asked, isn't it? So
yeah.
Well, let's talk about some positive stuff then. So think about your time since launching or Windfall. What's the single kind of proudest moment so far in the Windfall journey? The one that you'd like happily relive on a loop?
Probably the first big win we had was when we applied and got onto the Bethnal Green Ventures cohort. I think that was, so at the time we weren't even a limited company. We kind of just two guys with an idea, and we had already created those smart plugs at the time, and we actually had a few people testing the stuff. But that was really when kind of the external validation that, okay, there's actually something in this, and other people agree, and we think this could be a thing. So that, I mean, it gave us a bit of money to start doing a bit more stuff, but also just the validation and the network that they've subsequently given us, and they're great people. And I think their next cohort is open now for application. So I would always recommend Bethnal Green Ventures to people. They're a great team, back some really interesting companies, and it's not just the money or even just there's like a 6-week program. It's the kind of ongoing support and connections, and also just particularly in London in the climate tech scene, they're well known, respected. So when you say they've backed you, people sort of pay attention. So that felt pretty good at the time. And then I guess from a product point of view afterwards, it was developing prototypes. The first time we showed people our kind of latest version of a prototype, we took it to an event, and just seeing people see the product for the first time, especially because it was an event called Solar and Storage in the NEC, and it was a room full of solar panels and kind of big batteries and just, again, stuff completely inappropriate for anyone like me. So people seeing our product immediately, they could see this was a different product, this is something new, and seeing that, kind of hitting the mark we got the reaction we wanted, and that was exciting.
Amazing. We're going to flip it over now. What's been the hardest day you've had in this company? When you questioned whether it was going to work.
I guess it's probably, it's a good question. I think maybe some of the no's from investors is sometimes hard, especially ones where you kind of thought it could have been a good fit, and you get a no. But that's sort of inevitable. And the beauty of having two founders is you kind of can share that load, and when one's down, the other's up, or you can at least help each other kind of get over difficult times. So I suppose, I mean, touch wood, I feel very lucky that it's gone quite smoothly so far, and I hope I don't jinx that. But once we got onto the Bethnal Green Ventures program, kind of things started to move, and I think it's more, I guess the hardest things and the frustrations are just things taking longer than you expect, and time. I think as co-founders and I guess people who like making stuff, we'd love to be kind of just making stuff, coding, building stuff, and launching it, but all the other kind of realities of running a business slow you down in some ways, which again is some in our control and some not, but it can be frustrating when things don't feel like they're moving forward as well as they could be.
Yeah, massively. If you could give your younger self pre-first startup a 2-minute voicemail from where you are now, this is cheesy, isn't it? But what would you warn yourself about, and what would be the thing that you would have to look forward to, that would make you say this is all worth it?
Oh, that's tricky.
You don't have to role play, by the way. This doesn't have to be a 2-minute voicemail.
I'll say start with the second one. I think things to look forward to are just when creating something new and getting it in front of people and seeing their reaction. And even if it's bad, I think it's easy to get too afraid of showing new stuff to people. And I think it's probably a Paul Graham quote or something about if you wait too long, if you're not embarrassed by your first product launch, you've waited too long.
Yeah.
And I think there's definitely something in that you need to. What is it? Reid Hoffman, maybe. Anyway, yes, I think it's the thrill of doing something and getting it out there, and it's kind of both those things are critical. You have to do it and you have to get it out there. Like neither one works on its own. So I think that's fun. And on the warning, I suppose maybe it's about flogging a dead horse. I think I guess that kind of sort of ownership bias, and if you often you're sort of working on a product or something, you kind of know it's not right, but you just keep going because it just kind of feels you should. And sometimes you need to know when something's not going to work and be prepared to kill it. And that could be hard, especially when it's your own dream.
Yeah. You're kind of chasing the losses, aren't you? Sometimes. So, Brill, thanks for sharing that. I'm going to put you on the spot there. But, let's talk about what's next then. What's if you strip it back, what is the fundamental bet that you're making about how people will want to use and pay for energy at home over the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, I suppose the kind of underlying premise that people want to save money, I think that's not going to change. I think the challenge will be reducing the complexity to a point where this is accessible to enough people. And I think, like a lot of tech products, that when they first come out, they're complicated and only geeks can figure them out. And I feel like we're at that stage now where we need this to be a simple product that anyone can use. And there's a lot of subtleties and details in how to making something simple is very hard. So trying to make it, and that's not just so there's the hardware kind of basic stuff like the UI and an app that goes with it, whatever, but more the system stuff around, which is why going through energy companies where we can make the sort of integration with the tariff seamless, kind of making it a no-brainer, really. Like you buy this product or you whatever the kind of financial arrangement needs to be, but this will save you money, and it becomes a no-brainer. That's I think where we want to get to.
Awesome. And you're thinking ahead 12 months into the future, what are you most excited about?
Well, I mean, I guess in 12 months we should have an actual product made and manufactured. So that's will be cool. So we're looking at kind of middle of next year where we have our first batch made from China. So that'll be pretty exciting, having the real thing. We actually in January or February, actually, we're going to be launching a pre-order campaign. So kind of, although our main strategy is that's kind of B2B2C, we want to get the first batch of 100 into people's hands sooner. So effectively, we're going to do a kind of direct-to-consumer, so similar to Kickstarter. So going on my background, but effectively a pre-sale of those first 100 batteries.
Amazing.
Which will be, again, building up on that product market fit, showing people want them. So that'll be exciting. And I think I'm enjoying, it's kind of what I like, that sort of Kickstarter project style where you have to make a prototype photos, videos,
Yeah.
and selling. You're kind of selling a dream.
Storytelling. It's hype.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, love it. Right, we're going to wrap up very quickly, but I got some quick fire questions for you. So just say the first thing that comes to mind with these. So one rule of thumb for anyone that is thinking about launching a physical product on Kickstarter.
I'd share your idea and prototypes really early. Like, the worst thing is you end up well-developed idea and even prototype, spend a lot of money, and then realize people don't want it. And in a way, that's kind of the point of Kickstarter. But even early in that, you need to tell people about your product and share it.
Cool. The biggest mistake you see first-time crowdfunders making over and over?
I mean, the obvious one is people assume the marketing job starts on day one of your Kickstarter campaign. They think, got a great product, stick on Kickstarter, and everyone will find it. And that, kind of like anything on the internet, people don't just find you, no matter how good your product is. You need to find them.
Yeah, absolutely. One physical product in your own home that you absolutely love that more people should know about. Windfall aside, obviously.
Well, yes. That's a good one. Just looking around. I mean, my favorite thing would be my guitar over there, but that's, I think people know about guitars.
But maybe more people need to know about them.
Maybe
they know about them, but do they know about them? That's the question.
I think there's something almost kind of so about an acoustic guitar. Such a beautiful, the design hasn't changed in 100 years, and it's a beautiful thing, and it's very much not tech, but it's as an object and a thing, it's very beautiful.
Yeah, we was at a gathering a few weekends ago. It was the most genteel stag do I think you could ever imagine. But we're staying at this house up near Leeds, about 20 of us, and someone brings out an acoustic guitar, and everyone starts groaning. You're like, oh no! But actually, it was such a thing. It was a nice change of mood, and people were joining in and singing a lot. It was it was cheesy, but it was fun, and music has that ability, doesn't it, to just kind of change your mood, kind of get and distract you from whatever's going on in the world.
Yeah.
So,
and I think it's a good reminder that with all, especially AI and stuff now, the best things in life are always kind of a human connection. You don't need anything else. Just, especially I think of a pub with live music and friends like that. Doesn't get better than that.
Yeah. Awesome. A London meetup you think every hardware or IoT founder should experience at least once?
I mean, I could say IoT London. That'd be the obvious one.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, so one thing I didn't say, actually, one of our other advisors I met, so Nicholas Roop, who's a designer, marketer, he was talking at another event, and I ended up sitting next to him in the pub afterwards, and we got chatting, and now he's one of our advisors. So Amazing. That was, again, an IoT London connection. How often do they do the IoT London events? It's every month. So Alex runs them. So IoT.London is the website, and so they're very good. Amazing. One thing you changed your mind about in home energy or climate tech in the last 2 years? Or maybe there isn't anything. Yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe not changed my mind, but I sort of, because I don't have an energy background, so Ashley does, but I don't really. So I've learned a lot about the kind of energy mix in the UK, how renewables are coming online. And I think there's a lot that's happening, and most of the trends are great. Like the amount of renewables on the UK grid is just going up and up. But then that introduces its own problems with sort of grid balancing and kind of the renewables being intermittent. So that it's a very, I guess I've learned how complex the system is. Yeah. And it's a lot of it, there's kind of legacy national infrastructure, then there's private companies layered on top, and it's very complicated, is what I've learned. Yeah.
but it's also super interesting by the sounds of it once you dig into it. So
yeah,
awesome. And finally, if Windfall had to be summed up as a single feeling you want users to have when they look at the unit in their living room, what is the word?
I think there's there is a word. When you wake up in the morning and you see a battery that has magically overnight filled up with cheap green electricity, it gives you a very warm feeling, and I guess it comes back to it's cheaper and it's greener and it's kind of good for everyone. So is it maybe perhaps warmth is perhaps it's not quite the right word, but something around that.
Okay, maybe we could workshop that at another call. But no, brilliant. Thank you so much, Rob, for joining me, letting me interrogate you and dive into your past.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks for sharing your journey. For anyone that wants to follow you and what you're building with Windfall, or maybe pick your brain on crowdfunding, where's the best place they can find you?
So windfallenergy.com is our website for Windfall Energy. I'm also at robhalifax.com with 2 L's in Halifax, and there is a link to my Kickstarter crowdfunding consultancy stuff and Windfall, and all my previous Kickstarters is linked in everything.
Amazing.
So that's probably the easiest place to.
Cool. We'll chuck those links into the show notes. So if you listen to this and you want to contact Rob, check the show notes, click the links, and go from there. But Rob, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
Cheers.
And we'll catch up soon.
Thanks, Chris. See you soon.